Legend says a gardener found a baby in a basket. This child would change history. The river chose him, not the palace. Before empire, there were only cities. Before empires, there was chaos between the rivers, and among them, a servant. He learned how power truly worked. He watched power from the shadows. He felt the power. He was crushed under the weight of that power. He wanted more than survival. Into the unknown. He walked away from his past. The gates of my prison have finally closed. The air of the desert tastes like blood and freedom. He arrived at Kish. There he found war. War was discipline. He learned quickly. Men began to follow him. Order began to crack. Power changed hands. Sargon became king. But one city was not enough. He marched beyond borders. Cities fell. Others surrendered. They did not wait for dawn. Night provided the ultimate cover for Akkad. Silence was their weapon. They scaled the walls before the alarm rose. The city's fate was sealed from within. Step by step, the wall lost its power. A name lost to the sands of time, Akkad, the world's first empire. Before them, there was only chaos, independent cities, locked in eternal conflict. The gates were breached. The city was no longer its own. And Uruk was only the beginning. Another city stood in their path. One city fell, and the next one trembled. The march did not stop. Walls meant nothing now. Another gate, another city broken. This was not chaos. It was command. Sargon stood above them all. The age of kings had changed. Sargon reached the sea with the bronze sun of Shamash leading his way. The era of city-states ended. The era of the World King began. The Akkadian Empire had now been established. Sargon's conquests had united the city-states. Independent cities were now under a single power. It was one of the first great empires in history. Vast lands were united under a single rule. New roads were opened between cities. Caravans carried goods between cities. Trade brought life to Mesopotamia. Communication across the empire became faster. Cities were now connected. News traveled from distant cities. Akkad introduced the first standardized weight and measure system. Centralized administration was managed through thousands of clay records. The state controlled the grain, creating the world's first tax system. The world's first postal system was born, in the desert, connecting distant provinces. Clay envelopes ensured the confidentiality of imperial orders. A sealed system allowed the central government to control the flow of information. Akkadian became the world's first diplomatic language. A common identity was forged through shared laws and faith. In Mesopotamia, people carefully observed the sky. The movements of stars and planets were recorded on clay tablets. These observations later formed the foundations of astrology. Akkadian trade routes reached the distant lands of Magan and Malup. During the Akkadian period, trade ships carried goods to the ports. Cities traded with distant regions. Scribes recorded incoming goods on clay tablets. Trade had become a system carefully documented. Trade routes connected Mesopotamia. Goods constantly moved across the land. Copper and stone were valuable trade goods. Precious goods were sold in markets. Trade brought wealth. Governors were appointed in cities. A new administration was established. Taxes were collected. The state controlled the economy. Trade was recorded. Scribes kept official records. Clay tablets stored information. State organization became stronger. Cities began to prosper. Trade brought life to the cities. The economy was strong. But the empire would not stay strong forever. Problems slowly appeared. A great change was coming. Rebellions began to shake the empire. Unrest grew inside the cities. Cracks appeared within the empire. Distant cities became harder to control. The empire had grown too large. Governing became more difficult. The Gutian tribes came from the north. A new threat appeared. Warriors descended from the mountains. Wars weakened the empire. Cities were under attack. Defense became harder. The Akkadian Empire finally collapsed. Mesopotamia fragmented again. But its idea endured. The concept of empire lived on in history. The Akkadian legacy remained. Thousands of years later, the story of Akkad emerged again from beneath the sands. Through archaeology, the Akkadian Empire was remembered again. Follow for the next chapter.